Okay, now in this session, we will discuss about refrigeration and air conditioning. This is included in the module 3, unit number 2. So, refrigeration is a method of reducing the temperature of a system below that of the surroundings and maintaining at the lower temperature by continuously abstracting the heat from the system. Hmm. So that is actually the refrigeration system works on the application of second law of thermodynamics. So here the principle of operation is based on the second law of thermodynamics. Heat can be removed continuously from a system at a lower temperature and transferred to the surroundings at a higher temperature only with the aid of an external work. Okay, that means unless there is an external work done, it is impossible to transfer the heat from low temperature space to higher temperature space, or otherwise it is impossible to exchange the heat with only one reservoir. There should be two reservoir, means one reservoir and another sink must be there in order to pump the heat from a lower temperature zone to higher temperature zone. See, now we consider in this diagram there are two systems. One is at lower temperature TL, the other one is at higher temperature TH. Now this blue color area or space is to be maintained at very low temperature. We have to remove the heat from this, and that heat is to be rejected to the system which is at higher temperature. So for that, naturally it is not possible. Naturally heat always flows from the higher temperature area to lower temperature area or zone or space. Now in order to remove the heat and transfer it from low temperature zone to high temperature zone, we have to get or take the help of an external machine. So that is what the refrigerator does. Here say QL is the amount of heat absorbed from the low temperature space. Then for that we do some work. W is the amount of work done. Then altogether QH is the amount of heat supplied or transferred to the space at higher temperature. So QL is the amount of heat absorbed from the low temperature space. Further W is the work done, and QH is the amount of heat transfer to the surroundings or higher temperature zone. So this is the basic concept. So QH is always equal to QL plus W. W is the work done, then QL is the heat absorbed, then QH is the heat rejected out to the space at higher temperature. So that is how a refrigeration system works. What is refrigerating effect? See, the rate at which the heat is absorbed in a cycle from interior space to be cooled is called the refrigeration effect. That is the amount of heat absorbed from the space to be cooled is called refrigeration effect. Okay. Then now we'll see one of the important term, ice making capacity. So it is defined as the capacity of the refrigerating system to make ice beginning from water at room temperature to solid ice. It is usually specified in kg per hour. That is refrigeration capacity in terms of ice making capacity. That is the capacity of the system, refrigerating system, to prepare ice starting from water at room temperature to convert into 100% ice, solid ice. Especially that is at 0 degree Celsius. So it is usually specified in kg per hour. Now, next important term used is unit of refrigeration. So you might have heard the air conditioners are always mentioned in terms of tons of refrigeration. 1 ton AC, 2 ton AC. So what is that actually 1 ton AC means? That is derived from this standard unit of refrigeration. So the capacity of refrigeration system is expressed in terms of tons of refrigeration. Okay. A ton of refrigeration is defined as the quantity of heat absorbed in order to form 1 ton of ice in 24 hours. When the initial temperature of water is 0 degree, that means you take water at 0 degree Celsius, you take 1 ton of water at 0 degree Celsius, then you go on removing the heat for 24 hours, so that entire 1 ton of water from 0 degree Celsius is converted into 1 ton of ice at 0 degree Celsius in 24 hours. Then the refrigeration obtained, we call it as 1 ton of refrigeration. That is, it is equal to 210 kilojoules per minute. At this rate, if you go on removing the heat for 24 hours, that means you go on removing 210 kilojoules of heat per minute. At this rate, you remove the heat from 1 ton of ice for 24 hours, then the entire 1 ton of ice is converted into 1 ton of water is converted into ice. Or this is also equal to 3.5 kilowatts. That means 3.5 kilojoules of heat per second. At this rate, if you go on removing the heat from 1 ton of water at 0 degree, after 24 hours we will get 1 ton of ice at 0 degree Celsius. So on that basis, the refrigeration unit is defined as 1 ton of refrigeration. Then one more important term, because in any machines we define it in terms of efficiency of the machine for a given input. So what is the output obtained? That is always a measure of efficiency. But in case of this refrigeration system, we do not define in terms of output obtained per unit input. We define it in terms of coefficient of performance. Usually it is represented as COP. Oh, it's a number, no units. The COP of a system is defined as ratio of refrigeration effect, that is heat absorbed, to the work supplied. Okay. So if Q is the heat absorbed or removed, say now in this is the space to be cooled, then we absorb the heat. QA is the amount of heat absorbed, then to the atmosphere. QR is the amount of heat rejected. For that, work done is W. Then QR is equal to QA plus W. Okay. So then COP of the system is equal to QA, actually here it is, heat absorbed divided by work done. That is the COP. That's how COP of a refrigeration system is defined. Then in this refrigeration system, there are different types. So one is vapor compression refrigeration system. The other one is vapor absorption refrigeration system. So Now we will see one by one. In case of vapor compression refrigeration system, so a fluid is used. It is used as a heat absorbing medium. So that undergoes change of phase from liquid to vapor, and it absorbs the heat from the space to be cooled and rejected heat to the atmosphere or surrounding. Okay. So for this purpose, we have four different important elements in a vapor compression refrigeration system or cycle. First here, first what happens is a low temperature, low pressure, liquid vapor, liquid refrigerant enters into the evaporator. Evaporator is one in which it is located in the place where the space is to be cooled and maintained. So when this low temperature, low pressure liquid refrigerant or the cooling medium passes through, it gets vaporized. Okay, it absorbs the heat. First it absorbs the latent heat, becomes vapor, and then sensible heat gets heated up and comes out of the evaporator at higher temperature. Okay, so then that refrigerant is taken into a compressor and it is compressed. The refrigerant is compressed in order to rise the temperature above the atmospheric temperature. Then it increases the pressure, also increases the temperature. So coming out here is a high temperature, high pressure vapor that is passed through a condenser. Condenser coils pass through wherein the high temperature, high pressure refrigerant while passing through it loses the heat to the atmospheric air. Air passes through here. This refrigerant loses the heat to the atmospheric air, gets cooled down and comes here. Coming out here is a liquid at a higher temperature. Then that is taken into an expansion valve or a throttling valve. So here what happens is exactly reverse of the compression. In the compression, we compress, raise the pressure, rise the temperature. Reverse of that takes place here. Expansion valve, we expand it, reduce the volume, reduce the pressure, thereby reducing the temperature. In the expansion valve, it expands and comes out is a low temperature, low pressure liquid, blue color. Again it continues, next cycle starts. So this way, vapor compression refrigeration system mainly consists of evaporator, which is to be maintained at low temperature, then a compressor used to raise the temperature by compressing the refrigerant, then a condenser where the refrigerant loses the heat to the atmosphere, and an expansion valve wherein the high pressure liquid is expanded to low temperature, low pressure liquid and continues. So this is how a vapor compression refrigeration cycle works. So next is, this diagram represents the schematic of vapor compression refrigeration system. So this is the one diagram which you are supposed to practice and draw for your examination purpose. So whenever the question is with any diagram, explain the working of vapor compression refrigeration system or cycle, then you have to draw this diagram and explain how it works. Your first thing is you have to draw the diagram neatly. Second thing is label all the parts correctly. Label all the parts correctly, then explain how it works, the working principle. So here it consists of again four important components. One is evaporator. This is coil, evaporator coil. located at the space which is to be maintained at low temperature. Then second thing is, this is the compressor which is used to rise the temperature of the refrigerant above the atmosphere. Then this is the condenser where the high temperature, high pressure refrigerant enters and gets converted into liquid by rejecting the heat of the atmosphere. And then this is the throttle valve or expansion valve wherein high pressure liquid after passing through expansion becomes low temperature, low pressure liquid and enters into the evaporator. Now we will see one by one. Initially, to begin with, I will start the process of evaporation. Low temperature, low pressure liquid enters the evaporator coil. While passing through this, it absorbs the heat, then becomes vapor, then it absorbs the sensible heat, becomes higher temperature, vapor comes out here. Initially, it absorbs the latent heat, becomes vapor, then absorbs the heat again further, sensible heat, and becomes superheated, higher temperature. Okay. So then this high temperature vapor is taken into a compressor wherein it is compressed to higher pressure, thereby the temperature is raised above the atmospheric temperature, because this refrigerant is to reject the heat to the atmosphere. So for that, the temperature of the refrigerant should be above that of the atmospheric. So here the refrigerant after evaporating comes out at, say, so how 5 degree or 8 degree or 0 degree. In that case, when this is at 0 degree, it cannot reject heat to the atmosphere which is at 30 degree or 20 degree. Then this 5 degree or 0 degree refrigerant is to be raised, temperature is to be raised above the atmospheric, means it should be above 30, it may be 60, 70, 80 degrees Celsius, so that when it is exposed to atmosphere, it loses the heat to the atmosphere. For that purpose, so this refrigerant vapor is taken into the compressor and compressed to increase the pressure. When pressure increases, automatically temperature also increases. Usually it will be around 90 degree or 80 degree Celsius. So the atmospheric is 30 degree. Then when passing through this coil, condenser coil, it loses the heat to the atmospheric air and becomes a liquid. The liquid refrigerant comes out of the condenser. Okay. Then, but the pressure remains same. This high pressure liquid refrigerant comes out of the condenser and is taken into the expansion valve where it expands to original pressure. Here in the compressor we increase the pressure, say from 1 bar to 10 bar. Here the pressure is again dropped after expansion from 10 bar to 1 bar. Now the temperature drops very below, then below 0 degree, maybe minus 20 or minus 15. Then again cycle continues, low temperature, low pressure refrigerant, liquid refrigerant enters the evaporator and cycle continues. This is how vapor compression refrigeration cycle works. I hope you understand. Next, we will see about vapor absorption refrigeration system. So the working principle is almost same. Again, it consists of similar 4 elements, but one thing is the compressor part is replaced by this setup. All other things remain same. See here, the evaporator space to be cooled remains same. Then the condenser which rejects the heat to the atmosphere remains same. Throttle valve or expansion valve remains same. But in place of compressor, separate arrangement is done. Compressor is replaced by this arrangement, which consists of an absorber. This is absorber, a small pump, and this is an heat exchanger or a preheater, and this is the separator. This is called separator. Okay. So as usual, similar to vapor compression cycle, here low temperature, low pressure liquid refrigerant enters into the evaporator. While passing through, it absorbs the heat, latent heat, gets vaporized, and then passing through, it absorbs the sensible heat, becomes high temperature, and comes out as a vapor. Low pressure vapor, say 5 degree or 7 degree or yes, 2 degree Celsius, that way. Then that refrigerant, here refrigerant used is ammonia most commonly. So that refrigerant is taken into a chamber, so where it contains a solution ammonia in brine. Yeah. So it is vapor coming out here, gets into this and dissolved into this. Okay. So then becomes weak solution. So that is taken, is pumped, and it passes through this heat absorber, sorry, heat exchanger, and is taken into the separator. So separator, solution is taken into the separator. The solution contains brine and ammonia. So here this solution is heated by using heating source. Maybe electrical heater or any other source of heat. If steam is available, then they use the steam or any other heating source. So heating of the solution is done. Once it is heated, so the ammonia, which boils at low temperature, gets vaporized and passes through this condenser. Ammonia escapes into the condenser. Then the other solution, other liquid, it taken back to the absorber, back to the absorber. So this is solution very weak, and the ammonia, pure ammonia, after evaporation is taken into this. Then here in the condenser, it loses the heat to the atmosphere. That's liquid ammonia as a vapor, ammonia vapor. Then that vapor is taken here, sorry, liquid. This vapor passes through the condenser, loses the heat to the atmosphere, and becomes vapor, and sorry, liquid. That liquid is taken into the expansion valve, where it expands, becomes low temperature, low pressure liquid. Again it continues to the evaporator and cycle continues. The only point here is we replace the compressor, because compressor consumes more power, number one. Number two, it makes more noise. So in place of that, we use a small pump. So here noise also reduced, power consumption is also reduced. And the solution here, it is ammonia. Ammonia vapor is made to dissolve in the solution, brine solution. Solution is taken, pumped, and is made to pass through this preheater, because the solution gets heated up before coming into this separator. So in the separator, when you further heat it, then the ammonia vaporizes and pass through the condenser. Then the solution weak will again taken back to the absorber. So that vapor coming out in the condenser, so gets heat rejected to the atmosphere, becomes liquid, and liquid ammonia is taken into the expansion valve, where it expands to low temperature, low pressure, and taken into evaporator, and cycle continues. This is how vapor absorption refrigeration system works. I hope you understand. Now this table will give some differences between vapor compression and vapor absorption refrigeration system. So now working principle, if you consider, um, working method, vapor compression. Here refrigerant vapor is compressed. So in case of vapor compression refrigeration cycle, the vapor is compressed. Here vapor is absorbed and heated. So in case of principle of energy supply, here solely compression work is done. Here work solely heating the solution to vaporize the ammonia. So work or mechanical energy supplied. Here mechanical energy supplied to the compressor. But here pumping, small pumping work and then heating is required to vaporize the ammonia refrigerant. COP is always higher for vapor compression compared to vapor absorption. But when you consider the capacity of the plant, so this is limited to around 1000 tons of refrigeration. We cannot build high capacity refrigeration system with vapor compression system. But when we go for vapor absorption refrigeration system, so we can design more than 100 tons of refrigeration system capacity. The noise is more in case of vapor compression because of the compressor. But here almost it is silent, no noise in case of vapor absorption system. Then refrigerant used here are usually this Freon R12 or R22 like that. So here we use ammonia. Main problem here is these freons or CFCs, their ozone depletion potential ODP is higher. So depletion of ozone layer is caused because of these CFCs. But such a problem is not there with ammonia. Then leakage of refrigerant. So due to high pressure, there is possibility of leakage here. But almost here there is no leakage. Then operating cost. The operating cost is high in case of vapor compression because of the electricity required for compressor. But here the operating costs are less compared to vapor compression refrigeration system. These are some comparison between vapor compression and vapor absorption. Now, air conditioning. So, air conditioning, what is air conditioning? It is defined as a process which cools, cleans, circulates fresh air and control its moisture simultaneously. So that's how we can define air conditioning. Actually, it is done in order to provide a comfort living condition for the human beings. Refrigeration may be due to many other applications, maybe to store the medicine at low temperatures, or maybe for manufacture of ice, or storage of some perishable products like that. But in case of air conditioning, the main purpose is to provide a comfortable conditions of temperature, air pressure, air odor, all that. A conditioned air is supplied which can give a comfortable living for the human beings. That is the purpose of air conditioning. That is, air conditioning is a process which cools, cleans, circulates fresh air and also maintain the moisture simultaneously. So that is, maintaining the moisture is to maintain a comfortable humidity which is comfortable for the human beings to live. So here there are two types of heat as we know. One is sensible heat, the other one is latent heat. So sensible heat is any heat that rises the temperature but not the moisture content of the substance. So this is our regular and familiar everyday heat. Because it rises the temperature, it can be detected by the senses. And this in fact is why it's called sensible heat. Because whenever we supply heat, it leads to rise in temperature. When we remove the heat, it leads to decrease in temperature, which can be sensed, measured like that. So they are called sensible heats. Now, if suppose whatever the heat supplied or removed does not result in change in temperature, but it results in phase transformation, change of phase. So then it is called latent heat. Latent heat is the tricky one. When we talk of latent heat, we mean latent heat of vaporization or condensation also. It is the heat required to transform liquid to vapor or vapor to liquid. That is called latent heat. Now in this window air conditioners, so here it is positive points are it is inexpensive, easy to install. So each room can operate its AC independently. Simple, low cost service and maintenance are easy. The running costs are low. When you go for negative points, tonnage are limited to 1 or 2 tons of AC. Okay, then noisier than the other types because it is located in the room. Then it creates noise. Hmm. Then window is required and blocked by the AC. No constant fresh air circulation. The same air from the room is drawn, it is cooled and then supplied. So no fresh air is added. In every cycle, same air is drawn, then it is treated, cooled, then supplied. So that is one problem with the window air conditioner. So keeping the above attributes in view, window ACs are useful in homes, small office or executive cabins, and small shops. Now, air conditioning providing a cool, friendly indoor atmosphere by cooling, humidifying, or dehumidifying, cleaning, and recirculating the surrounding air is called air conditioning. Here, the points to be considered are number one is cooling. Air is cooled and supplied to the room or hall which is to be maintained. Number two, for our comfort conditions, comfort levels, it requires some definite range of humidity. If the humidity is less, we feel discomfort. The humidity is more, then also we feel discomfort. So what is humidity? Humidity is the moisture content available in the air. Now this air in the atmosphere, it absorbs moisture. Moisture is dissolved in the air. Okay. So then there is a limit, the saturation limit up to which air can dissolve moisture. So the maximum limit that moisture can be absorbed by the air, it is 100%. We say humidity is 100%. If suppose the air can dissolve some amount of moisture, say X amount of moisture, then only X by 2 percentage of moisture is dissolved, then we say the humidity is 50%. If 0.75x of the moisture is dissolved in the air, then we say that the moisture humidity is 75%. If 100% of the moisture is dissolved and the air is not capable of further absorbing or dissolving the moisture and it has reached the saturation, then we say that it is 100% humidity. That's how it is defined. Okay. Then our comfort conditions for living are say 70% humidity. Means whatever the moisture that can be absorbed by the air, out of that only 70% is absorbed, remaining there is space. Huh? So such condition of 70% humidity level is comfort for our living. So if there is more moisture, for example, in the coastal areas, say the humidity we say 80%, 85%, then we feel discomfort, we feel a lot of sweating and all that. On the other hand, if you go to dry areas, say northern part of Karnataka, maybe Ballari or Raichur, Gulbarga, there the moisture content available in the atmospheric air is low. That means humidity is very less, say 50%, 40%. When the humidity is low, the climate becomes dry and we feel discomfort. So in that case, depending on the condition, if there is dry weather, low humidity, low moisture in the atmosphere, then we have to humidify, means add moisture, then supply it to the room to maintain the comfortable humidity level. On the other hand, if it is over humid, like coastal area, then that humidity or moisture is to be removed from the air, make it around 70% comfortable, then supply it to the room. That is dehumidification. So one is cooling, then humidify or dehumidify, then cleaning and circulating the air. This is what is done in air conditioning. I hope it is clear for you. Now, so as per your curriculum, so you have to learn this diagram and explain. Now we will see. So if the question is with a neat sketch, a neat diagram, a neat figure, explain the working of a room air conditioner or a window air conditioner. In that case, you have to draw this diagram and explain. So here, you see, this is the wall. This is the wall, and in that, this is the window. This is window. Okay. Then in the window, we fit this air conditioner, window air conditioner. This consists of two sides. So one is the side which is coming inside the room, into the room, and the other side which is located outside the room, and this separated by the wall. This is wall and the window. Okay. So then here consider this inside the room, how it works. So then it consists of number one, this is the coil called evaporator coil. Always evaporator coils are located in the region which is to be maintained at low temperature. Okay. Then here there is a fan which draws in the air from the room. Say this is the room. When this fan rotates, it draws in the air, draws in air. While drawing, the air is filtered by using a filter. See here, there is a filter, air filter. Air filter is drawn, and while passing through, drawing through, it passes through the coil, evaporator coil. The evaporator coil into which we supply refrigerant at very low temperature, low pressure. Refrigerant is passed through the coil. Okay. So then there will be heat exchange between the air and the refrigerant in the coil. The refrigerant absorbs the heat and gets vaporized. Low temperature, low pressure refrigerant pass through the coil. It absorbs the heat from the air. Absorbs the heat from the air here. Okay. So air get cooled down and the refrigerant gets vaporized and vapor come out here. Vapor comes out here. Vapor comes out. Okay. Then this air after cooling again sent to the room, recirculated to the room. Now this refrigerant which comes out here is taken into the compressor. Similar to that cycle, vapor compression cycle, here the refrigerant is compressed to increase the temperature and pressure. This high temperature, high pressure refrigerant is taken to the condenser. This is a condenser coil which is located outside the room. Okay. Then So here this loses the heat to the atmospheric air. So again this fan rotates and pushes the air across the condenser coil, and heat is lost by the refrigerant to the atmosphere and becomes liquid. That liquid is taken into this throttle valve. So this entire black color tube which you can see, this is a expansion valve or throttle valve. So when passing through this, it expands, and after expansion it becomes low temperature, low pressure liquid. Again it is taken into the evaporator and the cycle continues. So this is how a window air conditioner works. Then application of air conditioning. So comfort air conditioning, domestic, offices, shops, cinema halls, hospitals, computer centers, libraries, hostels, restaurants, hotels, transportation, telephone exchanges, beauty salons, radio and TV stations, all our commercial applications, domestic applications, we see the application of air conditioners. Then industrial air conditioning laboratories to make precise measurements, especially in metrological laboratories where the measurement is to be done precisely. Then in servicing of some components of automobiles or aircrafts, so wherein the temperature is to be maintained properly. Uh, Then to study the effect of temperature and moisture on living beings for study purpose, control of humidity in multicolor printing. Okay. Then that is if the humidity is not constant, paper shrinks and causes poor registration of colors while printing. Uh, Then textile manufacturing greatly depends on the moisture control. Dry air is required in steel manufacture as it improves the quality of steel and reduces the coal requirement per ton of steel production. Then pharmaceutical industry needs refrigeration to reduce airborne bacteria and dirt, especially in case of clean rooms. Clean rooms, now the concept of clean rooms is very important. Fresh rooms and clean rooms. Hmm. So there, this air conditioning is applied commonly. So other than this, many other applications are there for air conditioning. Hmm. So now with this, I hope all of you what is air conditioning and all that. Now we will see what is refrigerant and the properties required for a refrigerant. So any fluid as it is cannot be used as a refrigerant or a medium to absorb the heat in a refrigeration system. For a fluid to be used as a refrigerant must possess some qualities, some properties. Then only we can use that, otherwise no. Say many fluids, say water, we cannot use it in a refrigeration cycle. Hmm. So then we'll see what are the properties. So we can classify these properties into thermodynamic properties, physical properties, safety working properties, and other properties. Hmm. We'll see one by one. Thermodynamic properties, which includes boiling point, freezing point, then evaporator and condenser pressure, latent heat of evaporation. These are very important. Boiling point is the temperature at which the fluid starts boiling. Okay. So for a fluid to be used as refrigerant, it should boil at low temperature. Because it has to undergo phase change. Because it absorbs the latent heat means its heating absorbing capacity is more at latent heat. Okay. Then freezing point is the temperature at which it freezes, means solidify. So whenever we are using a refrigerant in a circuit, so inside that it should not freeze. Hmm. So the freezing point, the temperature at which it solidifies should be very, very low. So inside the circuit, it should not solidify. Hmm. Then the evaporator and condenser pressure, the pressure which is operated in the evaporator and the condenser, they are very important. So they should possess proper evaporator and condenser pressure working conditions. Then latent heat of evaporation should be very, very high. In order to reduce the compression work, we have to supply less amount of refrigerant for more absorption of heat. So if we supply less refrigerant, absorb more heat, then the work done for pumping the refrigerant is less. So compressor work will be less. Therefore, the latent heat of evaporation should be high so that we can supply the liquid. So these are some required thermodynamic properties. Then physical properties, specific volume, specific heat and viscosity. Specific volume should be, what is specific volume? Volume per kg of the substance. Specific volume is meter cube per kg. So that should be less. Hmm. Then specific heat is the amount of heat required to raise the temperature by 1 degree Celsius. Hmm. So that should be high. Then viscosity should be viscous, low viscous, so that it flows very easily. It should not be thick. These are some important properties. Then safe working condition, it should not be toxic, because when we are using it for domestic application, pharmaceutical application and all that, so it should be non-toxic. And then flammability should be low. It should not be easily flammable. Then it should not be corrosive, because we are using this in the circuits, tubes, pipelines, in the compressor, in the operator. There, it should not corrode the material. So it should be less corrosive. Then it should be chemically stable, because it has to work at elevated temperatures. It should be very low temperature, minus 20, minus 30 degree. Then high temperature like 80, 90 degree. In the temperature range, it should be chemically stable. Then it should possess high COP. Then odor should be, it should not be bad odor, comfortable for a human. Then it should be leak proof. Even if it leaks, it should not be toxic. Then action with lubricating oil, it should not react with the lubricating oil, because this is taken into the compressor and compressed. So inside the compressor there will be oil, lubricating oil, so required for smooth functioning of the compressor. This refrigerant should not react with the lubricating oil and leads to chemical reaction, then damage of the compressor, all those things. So any fluid which, if we want to use as a refrigerant, must possess some of these important properties. So I hope the topics are clear for you. And in case of any confusions, any clarification required, so you can contact me. Thank you very much for listening.